this extraordinary panel. It is a very important issue because across the world, sex trafficking, child abuse, and harms to mental and social development are being facilitated by online pornography platforms with little intervention from legislators. This presentation of today not only reviews the multifaceted harms of modern day pornography to the children and adults who view it, but also to society at large. The webinar will address the merger that has occurred between the sex trafficking industry and online pornography platforms. Further, it will address research and case studies that reveal that sex trafficking and child abuse are systemic issues within the pornography industry and the global outcry for leadership and solutions. Benjamin Bull and Haley McNAMARA from the National Center on Sexual Exploitation is going to review these intangible legislative solutions that countries can pursue based on their cultural context. First, I'm going to present both Bill and Haley. Then we are going to have their interventions. And in a third part, we are going to present a trailer of a very special movie that it's related also with our summit in Budapest this year in the Political Network for Values Summit. And we are going to have our dialogue. So let me introduce Haley McNAMARA and Benjamin Bull. Haley is the director of the International Center on Sexual Exploitation in the UK and vice president at the US-based National Center on Sexual Exploitation. She leads international efforts and joint campaigns to improve policies and education among global governing bodies, citizenry, and corporations regarding the full web of sexual exploitation issues. Her advocacy work has contributed to policy improvements in social media, online advertising, retail, and hotel industries. She has advocated at the United Nations lead international coalitions campaign presented to Danish, Croatian, Colombian, and random governments officials and more. And Benjamin Bull, that I have to say, is a very good friend of mine several years ago. And it's a wonderful person. Benjamin Bull serves as the General Counsel and Senior Vice President of the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, based in Washington, DC, where he leads its law center litigation efforts to stop sex trafficking and sexual exploitation. Bull formerly served for many years as the Chief Counsel at Alliance Defending Freedom, an extraordinary organization that helps in several parts of the world, and was the founder and executive director of ADF International. He was also the founder and the executive director of the European Center of Law and Justice based in Strasbourg, France. He has practiced law internationally for many years, including at the European Court of Human Rights. So it's our pleasure to give the floor to Haley first and then Benjamin. Please, Haley.
Thank you so much. And thank you to Lola, Rodrigo, and everyone at the Political Network for Values so much for organizing this event on such an important topic. Really appreciate it. Our organization, the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, has a 58-year history of working on legislation, corporate policies, and pursuing justice for survivors through our International Law Center, and now international collaboration through our International Center as well. And we're really seeking to advance policies and solutions that recognize the full spectrum of sexual abuse and exploitation, including pornography, which I am so glad we are talking about today, because this is a serious problem, but it's a problem with hope, and it's a problem with solutions. Now, before we address sex trafficking and child sexual abuse, I want to briefly review the public health harms of pornography to the people who watch it and to society at large. When I first started this work, I remember getting a call from a mother who was in tears. Her 11-year-old son had been exposed to hardcore rape pornography online. She thought she had done everything right. She had put filters on in their home. She had talked to her child about the harms of pornography, but still he went to school one day, and at school, a friend showed him the video on their phone. This 11-year-old boy was traumatized. He was crying, saying he could not get those pictures out of his head. And I think this is an important story, and I think of this boy because it shows how pervasive and unavoidable pornography has become, even in families doing everything they can. The pornography of today has created an unprecedented epidemic of sexual harm. Online pornography is often free and anonymous, and a study of university students found that 93% of boys and 62% of girls had seen internet pornography during adolescence, so while still children. The content of online pornography is extreme, filled with themes of sexual violence, incest, racism, and of adults sexually abusing teenagers. Like other public health issues, not everyone who is exposed has the same response. However, for many, research shows that the repeat exposure and use is linked to negative impacts on the brain, including areas on motivation and decision-making. Pornography is also linked to increased sexual violence among adults internationally in the research. And it's also linked to an increased likelihood of child-on-child harmful sexual behavior and all other harms to relationships, body image, mental health problems like loneliness, depression, and more. So these harms are clearly vast on a societal level. And I do have research summaries for those interested in learning more. Unfortunately, only in English right now, but I will share a link for that in the chat at the end. But today, we want to spend more time discussing the links between adult pornography, online child exploitation, and sex trafficking. Now, growing up, I had a friend who lived in my neighborhood, and she came from a very good family that invested time in her. She was involved in sports and very popular in theater, and everything looked picture perfect. It wasn't until years later that I learned when she was only 13 years old, she was groomed online by a man who manipulated her into believing that he loved her. His manipulations escalated, and he convinced her to send sexually explicit images of herself, which he then used to blackmail and coerce her to send him more and more. To this day, my friend does not know where all of these images have been circulated online. And I tell you this story because for countless young people, just like my friend, their abuse, it circulates online, sometimes even mainstream pornography platforms. So when these platforms are unsafe, our own family and friends are potential victims as well. Adult pornography and online child exploitation and sex trafficking are connected in multiple ways. Sex trafficking is committed for the production of pornography. Pornography is made of sex trafficking or child abuse victims, and child sexual abuse material is sometimes even shared on adult pornography platforms. So let's first speak about sex trafficking for the production of pornography. The monetization of pornography is a commercial sex act, which means that any such pornography that's created through force, fraud, or coercion is by definition sex trafficking. Tragically, many individuals have been sex trafficked for the primary purpose of creating pornography. For example, in France in 2020, a famous French pornography website came under investigation by the Paris prosecutor's office for rape and procurement. Multiple female performers have spoken out that they were coerced and pressured into extraordinary, abnormal, and painful sex acts that they did not want to do. The website generated revenue, and so this case meets the definition of sex trafficking by the UN Palermo Protocol on Trafficking. Similarly, in the Czech Republic, a pornography company called Czech Casting has been accused by police of human trafficking and rape for the production of pornography videos. And another example of this are the criminal charges of sex trafficking brought by the United States of America government against the individuals behind a pornography company called Girls Do Porn. 22 victims had previously sued the company for fraud in a civil lawsuit and won that case. Girls Do Porn, the company, advertised that it was recruiting models. It lured women to hotels where they were given alcohol and marijuana, coerced and deceived into signing contracts to make pornography. Another lawsuit from this case emerged in December 2020 when more than 40 survivors of abuse and sex trafficking filed suit against the Canadian-based MindGeek, owner of the pornography aggregator website Pornhub, for its role in profiting from their pornography and sex trafficking. You see, the company, Girls Do Porn, was considered a trusted partner of Pornhub. Pornhub shared their content on their website. Many might say that this was one of the most legitimate forms of pornography. It involved contracts and globally popular production companies. Yet still, they have been caught facilitating sex trafficking. Further, the US National Human Trafficking Hotline recorded that pornography is one of the top 3 forms of sex trafficking related calls that they receive, along with escort prostitution and the illegal massage business. We know of similar cases that link sex trafficking and pornography in one way or another in Indonesia, Canada, Cambodia, Switzerland, Germany, Romania, Italy, and more. These cases show that sex trafficking and abuse within the pornography industry is not an isolated incident. This is happening internationally, not to mention the inherent harms and trauma inflicted on pornography performers by the industry. Second, we know that pornography is made of sex trafficking victims, people who are being exploited. Pornography is often made of these victims by sex buyers as mementos or as trophies, or sometimes pornography is used to advertise the victim to sex buyers, or to extort or blackmail the victim in order to keep them compliant. A 2020 Europol report confirms today technology is exploited by traffickers in every phase of sexual exploitation, from recruitment and advertisement of victims to blackmailing them with photos and videos to control their movements. In Russia, a 2019 study of women in prostitution found that 11% of them were first sexually exploited as minors. These sex-trafficked youth were 4 times more likely to have been used in pornography before the age of 18, which is child pornography. Often videos like these circulate online, whether on pornography platforms or social media websites that allow pornography. And it is vital to remember that this pipeline of abuse that funnels victims into this marketplace of exploitation is not only limited to sex trafficking or child abuse victims in general. Because of online grooming, it is very possible and sadly common for children at home to be groomed online by abusers who coerce them to self-produce child sexual abuse images or child pornography, which then may be shared online. Which brings us to our next point, which is the sharing of child sexual abuse images on adult pornography platforms. Reporting by the New York Times has revealed how mainstream pornography platforms, such as MindGeek's Pornhub, disseminate pornography made of child sexual abuse victims, including sex-trafficked children. One woman who spoke to the New York Times was adopted and sex-trafficked by her adoptive family when she was only ended up on Pornhub. She shared, quote, "Pornhub became my trafficker. I'm still getting sold, even though I am 5 years out of that life." Similarly, Rose Kalimba was 14 years old when she was brutally raped. Her sexual assault was recorded and uploaded to Pornhub, and it got millions of views. These videos live on Pornhub for months, while the 14-year-old Rose begged the company to take the video down, telling them she was a minor and the videos therefore depicted child sexual abuse. But nobody answered her pleas until she had to impersonate a lawyer and threaten legal action. It was only then that Pornhub deleted these videos, but the trauma from the public sharing of her abuse was already inflicted. Now, concern sparked by these survivor testimonies and more led the Canadian Parliament's Standing Committee on Access to Information, Privacy, and Ethics to launch an investigation into platforms such as Pornhub. The hearing found that Pornhub allowed users to upload their own videos, similarly to how you upload a video to YouTube. But this means that there was no meaningful attempt to verify age or consent. So for example, they might require someone to simply check a box saying they are over 18. But this allowed so many abuse videos to be uploaded to the platform. And they found that the platform failed to report videos of child sexual abuse that they were alerted to law enforcement for nearly a decade. In fact, any online platform that allows pornography to be uploaded by its users is filled with sex trafficking and child pornography because there is no real effort to verify age or consent. And we have seen the same problems on OnlyFans and on Twitter and more. But the good news is that this is a winnable fight. When we focus our messaging on the research and the facts of pornography's harms and its links to issues like sex trafficking and child abuse and gender equality, we have an opportunity for a large and diverse coalition of partners. We regularly work with legislators and activists who are religious and secular, conservative and liberal, feminist and family-oriented, who can all come together and agree that we need to fix these problems. So this is an opportunity to win. There are so many solutions available which can be fit to your own country, to your own cultural context. So I'd love to briefly review some of these potential solutions. One easy step forward might be resolutions. In the United States, 15 states have passed formal resolutions declaring pornography a public health hazard. These formal resolutions were non-binding, but they led to international news coverage, which helped educate people about the harms of pornography and laid the groundwork for future legislation. Just last month, a standing committee in the Council of Europe, in a unanimous committee vote, passed a motion calling for a resolution and a report to address the harms of pornography. So we're seeing this idea is going international. Last year, the Colombian Congress held a formal briefing for legislators to educate them on the links between pornography and sexual violence. This may be a helpful first step for many of you as well, and we are happy to assist with research and experts. Another potential easy step is to pass a law to ensure libraries, schools, school-given electronic devices, maybe those are iPads or tablets, and public Wi-Fi systems are filtered to block pornography. This is especially effective because the focus is on preventing children from being exposed. Or laws against sexism in the workplace or workplace harassment can include the banning of pornography. We've also seen some places pass warning label legislation that requires a pornography website to have a simple warning when you first click on about the harms of pornography use, which people have to click through, similar to some smoking or alcohol or gambling websites. We've also seen that it's possible to pass legislation. We believe it's quite possible to pass legislation to put an increased burden on any platform hosting pornography to do a better job to verify the age and consent of performers in order to reduce the sex trafficking and child sexual abuse materials. This would not only reduce the trauma and exploitation of survivors like the 14-year-old Rose Kalemba, but it would also help reduce online sex trafficking and child sexual abuse in general by making it more difficult for exploiters to monetize or advertise their abuses. If the goal is to prevent unwanted exposure to pornography, there are even more options, such as legislation that was passed by a state in the United States to require filters to be turned on for smartphones and tablets at the manufacturing level. You see, almost every device actually has filters, but when you buy them, they're turned off by default. This bill simply asks that the filters be turned on by default. Adults then are not prohibited from accessing graphic material. They are given a PIN code so they can remove the filter if they want to. But children are not given that PIN code. It's a simple solution. And then there's a larger, more comprehensive idea of either obscenity laws to ban the commercial production or distribution of pornography, which may or may not be feasible in your cultural context, or the idea of countrywide consumer age verification, where a system verifies that somebody is above 18 years old before being able to access a pornography website online. Thankfully, there is an entire industry of privacy respecting verification methods that already exist. So this can be done in a number of ways, depending on what your privacy requirements are. And many countries have already passed this. France and Germany have passed this, and I know Australia is working actively towards this as well. And of course, governments can do so much to promote educational campaigns, to set aside funding for counseling for people who might be addicted to pornography, to set aside funds for performers to exit the industry, to get counseling, and to encourage civil lawsuits for those who have been harmed by pornography corporations as well. So the problem of pornography is vast, and there is no single silver bullet, no one solution, but each step forward creates a ripple effect, educating on the harms of pornography, protecting families, and setting the stage for even more progress. In the last few years, we've held online conferences with more than 22,000 people from 110 countries. They came from different belief systems, different backgrounds, different parts of the world, but they were united in their share for solutions. So now is the time for leadership. I truly believe that we are at a turning point internationally in recognizing the harms of pornography. So thank you for considering this issue and for being the leaders that the world needs. I now welcome Ben Bull, Senior Vice President and Director of our Law Center, to reflect more on solutions.
Thank you, Haley. My intervention will be about 10 minutes or so, a little bit more perhaps. I just want to emphasize something that Rodrigo said at the beginning, and that's in understanding the nature of the problem today, we have to sort of shed or get rid of our old conception of the pornography industry, which used to be magazines or in movie theaters in the bad part of town. That was the pornography industry. And the sex trafficking industry used to be women, walking on the street in the bad part of town that were controlled by pimps with funny hats. That, to a large extent, is gone. What we've seen today, and this is fundamental that everybody understands this, is that those two industries, the pornography industry and the sex trafficking industry, have merged and gone online on the internet. That's where the big money is for sex trafficking and pornography. And we have multiple lawsuits, for example, representing tens of thousands of children that are being trafficked online by companies like Pornhub and MindGeek and Xvideos that are based internationally. To give you an example of when I say the industry has merged, well, in the United States, girls as young as 12, 13, and 14, often from foster homes, run away, get caught up in sex trafficking. Inevitably, more than 90% of these young girls and boys in some instances will be forced to make videos. They're forced either through violence, threats, drugs, alcohol, intimidation, or because they have no other choice. They make the videos are then uploaded to Pornhub and MindGeek to the internet, and that's where the profit happens. The videos are monetized. The individual that uploads the videos and the online platforms split the profit. The profit happens either through advertising based upon the number of views of the pornographic videos, or the videos are put behind a paywall where you have to pay a certain fee in order to access the videos. In either event, there's huge money, millions of dollars of profit being split by the online platforms and the uploaders. Now, the reason this can happen is that there's no regulation in virtually any country prohibiting the uploading of videos. You can upload any reason, whether it's malicious, whether it's revenge porn. Somebody had a girlfriend who allowed him to make a video, they break up, he gets mad at her, and he uploads the video to the internet. She's powerless to stop it. In one of our lawsuits, our client is a 15-year-old girl that went on a date with an older boy. He gave her a drug. She didn't know this. She passed out. She was raped. And the next morning she thought, well, that was a bad experience. I'll never see him again, and went on with her life. 3 months later, while she was at school, her friends told her that they were watching her video on the internet because the boy that raped her while she was passed out had uploaded the video and was profiting from all of the views of this young girl on the internet. Most people don't realize that companies like Twitter, at any given moment, allows tens of thousands of child pornography images on its platform, and it knows it. It knows it. And we have a lawsuit against Twitter right now. We represent two 13-year-old boys that were trafficked online. They thought they were swapping pictures of themselves with a 16-year-old girl that they were attracted to. Well, the 16-year-old girl turned out to be a 48-year-old man pretending to be a 16-year-old girl, sending them sexy pictures of herself, which this person didn't exist. They sent pictures of themselves. A year later, the recipient of all these sexually explicit pictures of these two 13-year-old boys were posted on Twitter and shared. The boys' families notified Twitter, told them that they were 13 years old, that these pictures were on Twitter. Twitter said that they were reviewing the videos, reviewing the pictures, and informed the parents and the boys that the videos and the pictures did not violate their policies and they would not take them down. The boy responded saying, "What do you mean you won't take them down? I was 13 years old at the time. All you have to do is look at the videos." And finally, the family notified Homeland Security Agency in the federal government, who then contacted Twitter. And finally, after that, the videos came down. But there were over 1 million views of these two boys on Twitter. This is after Twitter knew that the videos were on that website. And there were countless downloads. So even though Twitter deleted the videos, if there are tens of thousands of downloads of those videos, there's nothing stopping the downloaders from re-uploading the child pornography to another site. Pedophiles are preying on these websites like Twitter and Instagram and buying and selling child pornography images on the internet, and there's no regulation right now to stop it. We've drafted some model legislation which we can make available to anybody who's interested in getting it and introducing it in their countries. Just let me walk through the elements of the model legislation, and it's targeted at what I'm describing today. It's targeted at the online platforms that are being used by traffickers to upload non-consensual videos of women and children, which are being made under force, fraud, coercion, drugs, that kind of thing. The model legislation requires that any video that's uploaded be only done with informed consent. In other words, nothing can be uploaded unless the online platform has a document showing that the performer, the person in the video, actually consented to it. The second thing that's so important, the legislation also includes the right of anybody whose video is uploaded to withdraw consent. Because what happens so often is that these young people get into life, they agree to the videos being uploaded, but then they sober up, they stop taking drugs, they turn to their 20s and 30s, yet the videos are still up there. There needs to be laws that allow them to withdraw consent that they gave usually under the influence of drugs or coercion or threats and that kind of thing. We need to require that no pornography is uploaded without verifying the age of the performer. So there has to be identification provided to before any pornography could be made. We have producers and creators of pornography in the United States, and you all have them in your countries as well. Nobody should be able to take a video of anyone unless that person can demonstrate that they're 18 years old or older. And there should be record-keeping requirements where the producers and creators of this material are required to keep the age and identity of the performers, those records, in perpetuity, forever. And they should be prohibited from uploading anything unless they can demonstrate that the videos, the performers were at least 18 years of age and older. The legislation prohibits any pornography with racist themes. The online internet is the last place probably in the world where racism and intolerance on the basis of race is not only tolerated, it's encouraged. There are tens of thousands of videos online where Black women and women of of color have nooses around their necks. They're desecrated, they're violated by white men. There's an entire genre. People are completely into this. Well, we should outlaw that. That kind of imagery should be illegal. Any sexually explicit material, pornography involving violence or degradation should be outlawed. Any pornography involving bestiality or what's called zoophilia, sex with animals, should be outlawed. There should be requirements in every country that when an online platform is a video that it's been uploaded to that platform has children in it, or there are minors in that material, it should be required that it be reported to law enforcement, either in the country or in the United States, to something called NCMEC, which is a reporting agency. And there should be a law in every country making it a crime to download pornographic images from the internet. That way, it prevents people like our clients who are 13 years old from having their images being uploaded, then downloaded, and then traded on the internet again forever. So we're involved in litigation. We have class action lawsuits against a variety of online companies, against Twitter. The dirty little secret is that companies like Twitter and Instagram could eliminate all child pornography images on their platforms using artificial intelligence, which would identify these images the minute they're uploaded and ban them. They do not employ that software intentionally because they make so much money from the buying and trading and viewing of this material. Anyway, we're litigating that in federal court in the United States, and that'll be a very important case. Hopefully we can establish a precedent and shine the light of day on what's happening on the internet. And anyway, we have this legislation available to you, model legislation, which we can talk to you about. We can walk you through it, and I think it'll be a valuable tool for you in dealing with the kinds of problems that I'm describing here, the uploading of non-consensual pornography on the internet, the profiting from it, the child pornography that's being uploaded, and the victimization of children. I think we can stop this with really effective legislation. So thank you so much, Lola and Rodrigo, and I know that there are going to be some other interventions, and we're available to answer questions, of course.
Muchísimas gracias, Benjamin. Rodrigo, si te parece.
Thank you very much indeed, Benjamin. I believe, Rodrigo, before to see this video that has been mentioned, I would like to mention you briefly that several political representatives of 13 countries and from third, the Senator of Chile, Nicolás Mayoras from Argentina, Mariano Harvan, Secretary of the Senate from Argentina, Rodrigo Goñi, who is MP in Uruguay, Nicolás Albertoni, a political from Uruguay, Senator from Mexico, and member of our advisory board, General Secretary from Brazil, Javier Puente, Senator from Spain, Luis Peral, Senator from Spain, Pellegrin Castillo, ex-Minister for Energy from the Dominican Republic, Egidius Vareikis from Lithuania, two Spanish MPs of the European Parliament, Carlos Polo from Peru, José Rodrigo Valladares from Guatemala, and Gudrun Kugler, MP from Austria, and Mira Romero, Senator from Colombia, Jorge Antonio Cast, who won the first round of the elections in Chile, State Secretary, Minister of State of Uganda, and there is a program for the youth, And we always like to have and Willy Martinez from Colombia is representing the youth, our youth movement. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about who is connected, who is with us. And Rodrigo, no, the word is yours. Thank you very much, Lola. And I think it was really impacting the presentation of Haley and from Benjamin. I believe that for that we are really, we want to defend the families, the life and freedoms. This topic is really important for us because we are talking about the life of people, that are stolen from their families. They are without their freedoms. That's why I believe that it's really important to raise awareness about this really huge problem that it represents, this relationship between this link between these pornographic platforms and exploitation and abuse of persons. And I would like to mention you a couple of questions that were raised online, just in order to ask you to answer them. And there are some persons also that would like to raise questions. There are several persons that are asking about where is possible to access this webinar. So just in order to tell you, all this webinar will be in our homepage. Haley shared with us a link with a PDF document, and we are going to share, this is really important, all the websites of Haley and Benjamin of the center, and then you will be able to browse, to search all these elements. Meanwhile, I was searching a little bit in these pages, and indeed there are plenty of instruments that can help you. There are several comments about how can we help? How could we participate in this topic? And one of the questions, one of the tools that is linked to our summit is that there is a short film made by a great friend of mine, Eduardo Verastegui. Sorry, he made a film. Sound of Freedom is the title of the film. Sound of Freedom, and its international launch will take place during the Budapest summit, for which we are invited, all of us. Today, he unfortunately can't be with us because he's in a meeting with the governor of the state of Florida in these moments, in this very moments. But we will see the trailer of this film, of this movie, and there is something that will be started in Mexico. And I would like to kindly ask Eric if he can help us to watch the trailer of this movie.
I don't think I can do this job, Tim. As soon as I lay down, all they see are those kids' faces. How long you been doing this? 12 years. How do you do it? It is the fastest growing international crime network that the world has ever seen. It has already passed the illegal arms trade, and soon it's going to pass the drug trade.
Señor Timoteo, tú rescatas niños, ¿verdad? Quizá puedas ayudarme a encontrar a mi hermana.
Imagine walking into a room right now, seeing an empty bed. What will we do?
We're Homeland Security. You know we can't go off rescuing kids in Colombia.
This job tears you to pieces. This is my one chance to put those pieces back together.
We're talking about extracting an 11-year-old girl from an army of rebels.
Not just her. I'm talking about rescuing hundreds of kids.
She could be a block down the road, or she could be in Moscow, Bangkok, LA.
Over 2 million children a year are being sucked into the deepest recesses of hell. If we do nothing, someday it's gonna reach the likes of you. What if this was your daughter?
Wherever I go, I find my way home.
Como pueden ver,
As you can see, this movie talks about our topic, our issue. It is based on a true story with a person that has dedicated years of his life to fight against this issue. And in Mexico, in this moment, they are presenting this movie for the so-called authorities, legislators, governors, in order to reach agreements that can help to prevent, to help the fight against this issue, this topic. In order to take some social leadership, starting from the NGOs or from other powers of the country. They are trying to prevent, they are trying to fight against this topic. As far as I mentioned, this movie will be presented in Hungary, in Budapest during our summit, but it's a very good example. So in these moments, we are open if any of the panelists would like to raise any question. Rodrigo, I'm sorry, I just would like to mention the MP Corina from Panama, and just in order to start this discussion, this panel discussion, Mila Romero, the senator from Colombia, and Gudrun Kugler, the MP from Austria, they used to work in this specific item, and they may will to start this this conversation. I think the Senator Romero is available, because I can't see. I'm not sure whether Gudrun is connected in this moment.
Senadora Romero, ¿sí nos escuchan?
Yo sí la veo. Senator Romero, can you hear us? Yes, I'm listening to you. Good morning, everyone, to all of you.
Senadora, ¿quiere hacernos
Perfect. Senator would like to comment something about this topic. Yes, indeed. First of all, I would like to thank for this really important meeting, Lola Velarde and all her group. Thank you very much. As Senator from the Colombian Republic, we impose the creation and the work in a network at the international level, and we want to fight against this huge problem, which is the pornography, especially knowing that many of the statistics show that Colombia we represent a high percentage of these contents, of this pornographic contents. I would like to thank to Haley McNamara, Benjamin Bull, Lola Velarde, because with them we organized the first international congress in Colombia in March. The day of Saint Joseph in the Congress of the Republic. And we will exchange about all the impacts of the pornography. The elements we are talking about the a public health issue, and we are proposing several laws, several rules. We started this campaign the last year, and we just made a work document. We are talking about really important issues, and we believe that they can be used in order to fight against the pornography in many countries. This politics covers, I'm really sorry, but the quality of the connection is a little bit low. The penalization from the production to the consumption of pornographic contents, and the sort of raising awareness within the public, and including financial controlling measures. I would like to tell you that in Colombia, this forum was the first one which was used to raise awareness, and taking into consideration the importance of this issue, it is not really recognized its importance, and this forum was really important because we are generating the basics of the fight against the pornography in Colombia. Several authorities, the police and other entities and organs will participate in this fight in a coordinated way. During the next legislation, we are going to present a draft law in order to stop the access to pornographic sites. And unfortunately, because of the very complicated last legislation, we couldn't put into force this new law. There are several ideologic let's say, blogs groups in our country that didn't allow to put into force this new law. But I'm really grateful because we could start this work, and we could raise awareness in Colombia, and with the help of God, we hope we'll be able to put into force this law with the help of the Colombian Congress. Thank you very much, and we will continue this job with the help of all of you. Thank you very much indeed, Senator Romero. We would like to mention also that in many comments are asking for the specific information as far as the Summit of Budapest is concerned. I would like to ask Lola to share with us the exact date, and yes, with pleasure. As far as you know, one of the activities that the Network for Political Network for Values is organizing, we are organizing this transatlantic dialogue with the participation of politics in order to share positive experiences, experiences of success. The next summit will take place in the Parliament of Budapest between the 27th and 29th of May. Of course, all the political representatives are invited. Of course, representatives of the civil society also can participate, just getting into contact with our office, and all this information can be reached also on our web page.
Yes, Rodrigo, thank you so much. And sorry that I lost my connection for a moment. I am driving on the countryside of Hungary right now, and I'm on Austrian roaming. So to see you, Lola, Haley, Ben, and so many other old and very good friends. I am a member of parliament in Party, the Christian Democratic Party, but I'm also, and that's maybe something that would connect many of us, and something I should mention, I am within the Parliamentary Assembly of the OSCE, the Organization for Security.
I think we lost the signal of Gudrun.
Gudrun, maybe if you turn the video off.
And cooperation in Europe, technology, and within my work, a number of issues, but Rodrigo. Okay, just till up. So I was mentioning that while I'm a member of parliament in Austria, I'm also a member of the Parliamentary Assembly of the OSCE, and there I'm a rapporteur for the second
I think we lost her.
Issue of human trafficking, sexual exploitation, and the use of social media to doing so, because this is where economy and technology definitely have an issue to solve, and so I've listened carefully to what you've said, and I want to thank everybody for the contributions. I think it's very important to emphasize
okay. Okay, Gudrun. Well, thank you very much. We can no longer hear you. Voy a dar la palabra a...
I will give the words to our friend Luis Peral from Spain. Please, Luis.
Muchas gracias. Felicitar en primer lugar a los organizadores de este acto de la política Network for Values. Dos comentarios. Participé hace algunos meses en una conferencia semejante y se puso de manifiesto cómo con motivo de la pandemia el problema se ha agravado. Muchos niños en países donde se les utiliza como víctimas de la pornografía infantil estaban retenidos en sus casas, víctimas de familiares, conocidos, amigos que abusaban de ellos. También quería mencionar que, siendo senador de España, en dos ocasiones, como en ocasión de la modificación de los códigos penales.
So we were talking about the modification, the amendment of certain laws against the children. So in any country, if in a country of the world who commits a crime against a child, will be sent to the court, and it is really important that the universal justice should exist, just as in the case of the terrorism, in case of the crime against sexual crimes against children. There was a question about also what should be done in Mexico. It was, I think, Diana and several other persons raised this question. We were talking about this tour that is being organized in Mexico, and Benjamin and Haley were talking about the models, and it would be great if you could share with us these models, because then in the federal parliament we could adopt similar laws. And we were talking about agreements in which there are determined commitments, and we are talking about several mutual agreements between the US and Mexico. So this is what we are working on here in Mexico. Haley or Benjamin, would you like to answer something to these interventions that were made up to now?
Haley, do you want to comment? Or?
Yes, we would love to discuss that further and to be of assistance. I'm going to put my email and Ben's email in the chat. So for the model legislation that we have talked about, please reach out to us. We are happy to share it with you and to answer any questions or to discuss it with you, because I think it is a good way forward. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let me just add one thing too. Rodrigo and Lola and I talked about this the last time we were on a Zoom call together. There are thousands of children coming from Latin America into the United States for a better life. Many thousands are unchaperoned. They're coming in without their parents, or they're being separated from their parents at the border. Thousands of these children are disappearing. And we know for a fact that human traffickers are apprehending them, taking them into their custody, their control. And we know for a fact that many are being sex trafficked, videotaped, and held against their will. This is a catastrophe of gigantic proportions. And I fear that the American government is not addressing it adequately. But it's an issue that we need to shine the spotlight on. And the movie trailer that we just looked at is very topical, right on point. And this is a a significant problem. The administration, the current administration in the United States doesn't want to talk about it because it doesn't want to be embarrassed. But it's something that I think all of us, especially legislators in Latin America, can use their positions and their authority and their power to put pressure on the US authorities to do something, to stop it, to enforce existing laws against human trafficking, against sex trafficking, and protect these children.
Thank you, Benjamin and Haley. Carlos Polo de Perú, por favor, adelante, qué gusto verte.
Carlos Polo from Peru. It's a pleasure to see you. Hello, good afternoon. Thank you very much. It was a great presentation, Benjamin and Haley. I have met you before. You should believe that many legislators will be very glad hearing this proposal, that they can hear about legislation model, because this is linked to other issues, topics like the abortion, the integrated sexual education, and in our agenda there are common points that can be reinforced mutually. In fact, many of the NGOs that promote the gender, they are linked to other groups that are dealing with all these problems that you were talking about. I believe it's really important to raise awareness and educate the nations as such. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Carlos Polo. My question is there any other comment or question? I read something from Juan Camilo Ramirez. Would you like to tell something? Yes, thank you, Rodrigo. Gracias, Lola. Thanks to all the panelists and participants and assistants. I think one part of the experience that we heard, it is really relevant, because in these legislative projects, it's really important the raising awareness factor, and it's really important the help of Haley and Benjamin that they gave us, because with this help we were able to reach experts from many different topics, from the physiologic part, the psychological part, the social impact of this phenomenon. It's really important, the forum that the Senator Mila mentioned in Colombia. Thank you for the context given by Haley. So we had also a representation of feminists who was talking against the pornography, talking about the objectivization and instrumentalization of the women, and her participation was really important because it allowed us to create bridges with the different parliamentary groups, even with those who traditionally are against our narrative, pro-life and pro-family. So in case of this topic, the pornography, there are many common points, even between or even with those that traditionally are against to our posture, against to our position. And that's why the European Center for Law and Justice and the organization of Haley and of Dr. Benjamin have got a huge amount of information of the last, so very new information, which can help us to make steps forward in the legislation topic. So if any of you would like to start this journey, from the political point of view, in this moment, it's a good moment. There are enough information to start it, and it enables us to create a sort of let's say context of raising awareness, and it is really important to talk about these topics with the representatives of the governments, authorities, policy, and tribunals, and so on. Because of course, when someone arrives with all this help, with all this support, it's much easier to start the dialogue with persons in charge. So I just wanted to comment, and first of all, or last but not least, thank you very much for the great job that you are doing. Thank you very much, Juan Camilo. We are going to ask Jose Antonio Cast and then Willy Martinez. Jose Antonio, so the word is yours. Thank you very much, Rodrigo. First of all, this is a great initiative. Lola, thank you very much for your job. So we are really occupied, and really this fight is really important that we started. Haley, thank you very much for your great reports and wonderful presentation. I think it's really important to mobilize the civil society, and it's really unbelievable that there are several agendas of the gender and so on, and nobody's talking about this issue. This is a topic that that unfortunately gives us an opportunity. I say that unfortunately because we are talking about the abuse and exploitation of sexual exploitation of the children. But at the same time, this is a great opportunity to foment the sexual education in order to prevent, in order to educate the children against the sexual abuse, and it can be demonstrated that there are many platforms in which all this sort of pornography can be found. For example, the accounts on Twitter that should be blocked, that should be eliminated. So thank you very much for this information. I'm really motivated. I would like to activate the civil society, and here in Chile, we had elections, and today in my parliamentary group, which is a huge one, I will do everything in order to promote the fight against this terrible issue. And we have to show to the world this sort of dichotomy, the hypocrisy that is existing within many organizations. And really, we should prevent the abuse and exploitation of the children. Thank you very much, Jose Antonio. Your words touch us, and I hope in those parliamentary groups you will be able to start to launch initiatives. Willy, please. Rodrigo, I just would like to mention you that we have a youth program, the youth program of the network, within which we try to promote the participation of the youngs in this program. And Willy, is a member of this movement, and he will participate in the summit of Budapest too. Thank you very much to all of you. Good morning. So this forum was really impressive because it helped me to understand how you solved some problems that we are talking about. That I'm from Chihuahua, the northern part, very near to the States. Haley, Benjamin, thank you very much for all of your support. I studied communication, and I have the specialty of the mass communication. It's a school which had really conservative values, but this was converted in my case when I arrived to the university. I had to choose a topic, and that topic that I chose, we had to choose a common point with the left-wing people, and this topic that we found, it was the pornographic exploitation and sexual abuse. And we didn't, of course, we didn't find a solution, but we found solutions for protect the users. We just developed the so-called porn block, which can help you to control the different devices. The problem with this porn lock is that, for example, the kids in the schools using the open Wi-Fi, they just used their own devices. And with this application, what we did is that when someone starts to watch a pornographic page, all the legal consequences appeared in order, and also all the consequences on the shrinking of the brain and so on. So it's so indeed, this application helps to the people to understand what are the consequences using these pornographic pages. And we started also a fight. At least I started a personal fight in order to reach the internet users know what's happening when they consume pornographic contents. So these are very good tools, and everything, all the support that Benjamin and Haley are giving us can help to give a response to the other problem. So not the users, but the victims of the sexual exploitation. So thank you very much, Willie, and indeed we will continue the fight. We'll continue supporting the youth program. I would like to ask Corina Cano if she could share with us her comments, and we will give back the word to Gudrun Kugler to share with us her final message, if there are no other interventions, and then we will conclude this webinar. Thank you very much, Rodrigo. Thank you very much for the opportunity to participate in this seminar. Thank you, Lola. You always invited me. Sometimes I couldn't participate in these meetings, but I'm really grateful for hearing these initiatives, which opens us new journeys in which we are working together with others pro-life and pro-feminist. I'm being an MP of the Republic. I can tell you that in Panama, the Congress, in this very case, the National Assembly, we approved a draft law, which gives us a lot of expectation. And this is about a protection, sort of protection system to the children and adolescents. In some Latin American countries, there is this sort of system, but in Panama, there are several articles that are included for the protection of the life from the moment of the conception. And it is really important because we are impulsing the importance of the parents as far as the education of their children is concerned. This project, this draft law was approved by the Parliament, and it includes the possibility to take into consideration the international treaties that has to be ratified by the Parliament, which helps to the different organizations. After this law, the Parliament will control that any measure that any organization would like to put into operation in our country has to be in harmony with international treaties. And we're talking also about the protection of the children and the adults, the different internet cafes and so on have also the responsibility for the protection of the kids. And there is an article about the virtual protection, about the no access to videos or information with adult content, which are not in consonance with the education of our kids. We are talking about the protection in the virtual space, but so the really important is that our kids and the adolescents have to access to the good kind of information. There is a chapter also about the protection of the kids against any sort of exploitation and abuse, sexual abuse. So, for example, when a kid arrives to a cyber cafe, that particular business has to assure what that kid can reach, can access, can see. And definitely, we need to control those that that our kids don't access all that sort of adult information. We need to prohibit the commercialization of all these contents, which means that all the adults, somehow we are involved in the protection of our kids in order to avoid that all those information that is detrimental, has a detrimental impact on their development. We need to protect the kids. We need to supervise their access to the virtual context. So in this forum, in this webinar, we can have a lot of very good information, ideas, what can we do in order to improve our legislation, continuing the protection of our kids. And this is which is really important from the education of our kids. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Corina. And now we would like to ask Gudrun if she would like to give us a final word.
Hola. For my connection problems today. You should think that the Europeans will be able to get some internet connection, but it doesn't look like it. And we mentioned the reason I was on the road from Austria to Hungary, and I could listen perfectly to Heli and Ben. But the moment our discussion began, I had to cross the border, and then Hungarian internet did not help me anymore. So please forgive me. And yeah, it's a very unfortunate coincidence. So since instead of saying policy issues on prostitution, as I thought I was asked to do, I will now just try to conclude today's session with a few strategic thoughts. First of all, I would like to, on the issue of sexual exploitation, there are a number of, it's very important that we have the right ideas. It needs to be within international cooperation, because these problems are international problems. So we need to exchange ideas. And I'm very grateful to the network for giving us this opportunity. And I know that also through the initiative that was taken in the Colombian parliament, there's already a task force, an international one, there's a position paper, and all the good ideas that we heard today. I think it's very useful for the network to circulate those ideas. And then as a second step, once we have those ideas in our hands, it's really our responsibility as national members of parliaments to take those ideas and make sure that they get implemented in our countries. And this is not just possible to do through, yourself, because you will have, limited scope, but that is something that you can strategically bring into the dialogue in your parliament. You will know who to talk to, who is the speaker for which issue, which parties need to cooperate. And this requires a lot of strategic thinking, but each one of us knows our cultural and national context best, which idea needs to be brought to which person in order to, get it going. And within this process, you will encounter difficulties that you could not imagine at this point before you get started. I have tried myself a number of things in Austria, and I have to say I was surprised about sudden, unexpected resistance. And this is related to people in high places that make a lot of money themselves, or that have friends who make money in this area. So you will be surprised who suddenly tells you that your ideas are not making any sense. And so be ready for this. And so I want to, as a third point, encourage you to be brave, to create alliances, cross-party, in order to be able to answer these surprising resistances that you will see. I would also ask you to question the, for a first step, to question prostitution, because there's a connection between pornography and prostitution, and human trafficking and prostitution. And some countries in the world have very, very strong discussions on this. And then some people argue prostitution is always a form of exploitation and always has negative and harmful effects. But some countries do not have these discussions at all. And there are so-called survivors, people who, left prostitution and who can tell stories and you will be able and happy to come to your country and speak to the public, and also give interviews to large newspapers in order to help you begin such a dialogue. Because all of these forms of exploitation are interconnected, and sometimes it's just already a great achievement to begin a discussion, and if it takes years, you will maybe come to a better solution afterwards. So we are in this together, even though we work in our national context. I do encourage you to continue working with this network and amongst ourselves to help each other, support each other. But also, please reach out, let's reach out to each other in the international context, because so many of these issues that we are talking about here are being solved or being tackled in international parliaments. I can say for Europe, we have the Parliamentary Assembly of OSCE, the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, then we have the United Nations, where our national delegations go. You have in Latin America, other institutions. You need to reach out cross-country at these levels in order to get the wordings into these documents as well. So in this sense, I can only end by underlining how important this kind of networking is, and how grateful I am, and I'm sure I speak here in the on behalf of many participants, to the Political Network for Values and Lola and Rodrigo and everyone else, that you are providing such a platform for us politicians. We will try to live up to the great call. For most of us, it means to be brave. For me personally, it means to be brave every day, but only by giving our best and really, living up to a very high and difficult level that we set for ourselves, we can achieve the difference that it needs to protect women and girls and boys and men. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gudrun. And I just want to finish this webinar. If Haley or Benjamin want to give a final message in order to have the final message, please.
I would end by saying thank you all so much for being the leaders that the world needs on these issues. Like I said at the start, they are difficult, and navigating the solutions is difficult, but I know that these solutions are possible, and even more that we haven't thought of thanks to your leadership. So I'm just so grateful for you to address these issues, and we're here in any capacity possible to assist. Ben, any final thoughts? Oh, you're mute.
Ben?
Yep. Thank you. Thank you for everybody's participation. We do have model legislation and lots of information. We're going to take steps to translate it, certainly into Spanish, but it's available to you. And if you do introduce legislation in your nation, we'll be happy to work with you, provide experts, provide information that supports any of the provisions in the legislation. Again, we work both nationally and internationally, and we will do everything we can to help you be successful. I think this is a problem that we can, we'll never make it go away completely, but I think we can make it much smaller. We can help thousands of children, thousands of victims, thousands of survivors. And there is legislation that can be passed. And part of it really is elevating the issue to public scrutiny through movies like the trailer we saw, and starting a dialogue and shining the light of day so that these people are held accountable and have to answer questions. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Haley. Thank you very much, Benjamin. And it is very important to raise the conscience of this issue. I think this was a very good space in order to encounter with the issue, encounter each other. I want to to say that this is a life, family, and freedom issue. So it goes to the core of the political network for values. I want to thank you very much for what you are doing, Haley and Benjamin. This is a fight for all of us, and we are going to try to make our part. I want to recognize too Christian Vollmer commentary. This issue have several aspects to work, and she's working very hard in some aspect that is the education, the formation of the young people, aprendiendo a querer. It's an extraordinary program. I am a member of the National Council of the Red Familia, and we are promoting this program in schools for young people. It's a prevention, and we are working this in several schools in Mexico. So this is another way to work in this field, but I'm sure everyone here could find a way to work in favor of life, family, and freedom, and to fight against this pornography and this sexual exploitation. And well, I want to tell you that our next webinar it's going to be exactly, let me see if I have it here.
El 25 de febrero, viernes.
El viernes 25 de febrero. Vamos a tener nuestro
25th of February.
Sobre un tema.
Our next webinar will take place on the 25th of February, and we are going to talk about Chile, their experience, a great leadership, and the movement and emerging party, pro-life, pro-families, and pro the freedoms, leader by Antonio Cast. So I would like to invite all of you to spend that time with us in that webinar, and for sure in that webinar we will see several elements that that will help us in our advocacy. So thank you very much to all of you. We are waiting you for the next Transatlantic Dialogue, Friday, 25th of February. The topic will be Chile, and our special guest will be José Antonio Cast. Thank you very much for your participation, for your comments. We will disseminate the contacts of Benjamin and Haley, and let's continue working for the families, life and freedom. Thank you very much for all of you for the participation.
Bye-bye.